Okay. It's 2 o'clock, and I announced that we are going to begin exactly on time so we can finish exactly on time, because I think you're all tired. Welcome to the last panel. My name is Béla Rásky. I have this very distinct Hungarian name, but I'm a native Viennese. I researched, learned, taught modern Central European history here in Vienna, made a couple of projects in the same field, wrote 2 books, many articles on this issue, and curated or co-curated 4 or 5 large exhibitions on Viennese contemporary history, either at the Wien Museum or at the Künstlerhaus. That's to my person. And the last panel is a kind of a punishment, I think, from the Institute for me, because I always, I'm fooling around that I'm the last person who is watching TV in Austria with a real TV set during prime time, or the others, my colleagues, they use these modern gadgets and slide up and down their fingers on the screen and have a different approach to TV. So I got the punishment to present the panel, which is called After Television, Holocaust After Television. And we are going to have 3 panelists because Jakob Eder unfortunately got ill. He already had a virus 4 days ago, so he canceled his lecture, but he will be in the publication. And we have 2 lectures on YouTube, but we framed it in between. There will be another issue, kind of the science fiction, how Holocaust influenced science fiction. Our first lecture is going to be Stéphanie Benzaquen. She is from Rotterdam, from the Erasmus University, where she is a PhD candidate. She got her bachelor and her master at the Sorbonne University in Paris. She also worked as a curator, as I learned, and has organized exhibitions all over Europe, basically, from the Baltic states, Albania, to France, and Israel, which is not Europe, I'm sorry. She is a recipient of numerous fellowships, and in 2004-2005 she was a researcher in 2010 at the Art Institute in Chicago, and the title of her presentation is going to be The Afterlife of a Media Event, Watching the Miniseries Holocaust on YouTube, and I ask her to take the floor.
Hello, so thank you, Béla, and thank you for being here and for inviting me. So, yes, to confirm what you just said, it's true that most people now are watching TV on their smartphones and on their tablets or their computer screen. And my question will be, what is the impact on Holocaust of this jump from television culture to digital culture? So you tell me if I go too fast when I scroll the thing, because I want you to have a bit of time for reading. So the first question I want to ask is, I will frame my talk in 2 parts, 2 main parts, and one is about what is the watching experience on YouTube, and the second part will be, does this kind of participatory culture create a new kind of spectatorship for Holocaust, the miniseries, or for Holocaust movies in general? So the first question is watching Holocaust on YouTube the same thing as watching Holocaust on TV? And if it is not, then what is the impact of the medium? And there is a very interesting concept to think about that, which is the idea of technological unconscious, which has been coined by Andrew Hoskins in a very Benjaminian way. And by this, it means that we have to be careful with the interaction between machine and human. And most people know about the basic functions of the digital and social media they use, but they are not really aware of the functionalities and algorithms that shape the way they share content or communicate together. So this is, for instance, Okay, how do we start with Holocaust on YouTube? I mean, we have to search for the Holocaust miniseries, so we just type Holocaust miniseries 78 in the search engine of YouTube, and then we get, for instance, 7,760 results on the day I made this screenshot. And the first question is it 7,760 people who uploaded a video of Holocaust on YouTube, or what is it made of? And for that, we have to understand how the search engine is working. And unless you activate something which is called the verbatim search, which is a literal term, then the search engine will automatically try to find all kinds of alternative spellings or similar results or all kinds of associations. And in fact, many of these results here are things which include the term Holocaust. So you will have, for instance, Holocaust zombie, cannibal Holocaust. You will have also all kinds of things which include miniseries, so it can be Lord Byron and God knows what, or all kinds of things that aired in 78. So that's a first element. A second element is that if we focus now more on the results that are connected to the miniseries itself, as you can see on this image, you have these 19 videos, 59 videos, and in fact you have a lot of people who upload Holocaust in 59 or even 60 parts. You have some who choose to do something very precise, so they choose one small excerpt, like something about Einsatzgruppen, for instance, and that's the only thing they will upload on YouTube. But you have several people who have decided to chop completely the series and to upload it like that. And you have, in fact, so one of the questions is, why do people do something like that? Because it's very disturbing if you watch the miniseries chopped in 50 parts or 60 parts. And for this, we have to understand there are many reasons. So there are some technical reasons, because it may seem more difficult to upload 50 small parts rather than uploading a huge long part, but in fact it demands a lot of skills to upload something which is a large size file. So not everyone is capable of that. So that's the first element explaining why you have so many small parts. Then it's also that people usually have a kind of basic account, and YouTube for many years allowed people just to upload something that was not longer than 10 minutes. So you can understand better here this comment. Then it was 15 minutes. And a few years ago, YouTube said, okay, you can upload whatever you want as long as you want. But for a long time, people were completely limited by this decision of the platform. So that also, because if we think in terms of reception, so what does it imply? And I mean, my idea, because I prefer also a kind of television experience, so I looked for the one who had uploaded the miniseries in 2 parts of each 3 hours something, rather than, you know, checking the 59. And in fact, you can see that even the 59 parts have something like 100,000 views. So people apparently have no problem watching Holocaust sliced in many parts. So that is maybe a first question that we can consider: is what does it say about the way it is watched now, and has it more to do with the kind of fast consumption of something in a world that is full of digital stimulus? So that would be this. I have no answer for that. I just bring the question like that. And then the other reason why people do not upload the entire series in 1 or 2 parts, it's of course copyright issues. And this we will come back several times to the subject, because it's very important. And so, in fact, the only person who has uploaded Holocaust in 2 parts, so his name on YouTube is Truth Talk News, has also put this fair use notice in the description of the video. fair use notice is, for instance, something that Wikipedia is completely relying upon. It's a very important way of using images and to talk about Creative Commons, and so it's quite central, this. And he explains that, yes, he uploads that in this way under the fair use principle because he considers that the miniseries is an object of social criticism. What it means for this person called Truth Talk News, we will see it again a bit later, but let's just remind this fact. And it sounds a bit like he's waiting for maybe some broadcaster to come against him and to say, no, you have to remove it. So it's a form of provocation also, but a bit more about that later. And the other element of the watching experience, because as you see, even before you access the miniseries, you have all kinds of elements that interfere with your watching the artifact, I would say, then it's this visual and discursive environment around the video. And you may remember what Anna Reading says, that we watch Holocaust films and we create meaning in interactions with other things we have seen. So it can be museums, it can be exhibitions, photos, etc. So on YouTube, you watch the miniseries in interaction with associated videos. And we go back to technological issues, because what are these associated videos? What makes them connected to the central video? And that's a bit of a mystery, because YouTube so far has not really explained how it creates this series of associations. So we have a few clues. We know that it comes from the description of the video, so there is something referential, that's obvious. But it's not the only thing. You have the number of views, you have also the number of thumbs up or down, you have the sharings, you have, of course, the eternal thing of associated alternative spellings or similar results and things like that. And you have something slightly more dangerous, which is the watching history and the search history of the person who wants to watch the miniseries. So associated videos are in part defined by what you have been searching in weeks or months before. So, okay, be careful when you watch something. So now let's go to the second part, and the second part is, okay, if you analyze comments, can you understand something of what is the reception of Holocaust nowadays? And so one of my questions is there a continuity between the kind of criticism that was expressed in 78, 79, and the kind of comments we find nowadays on YouTube? So you have this kind of comment, and you have this kind of comment. And in fact, that defines the spectrum of reactions. So you have the ones who are really not really in favor of this melodramatic conventional plot of the Holocaust of the miniseries, and you have the others who say, no, it's a multifaceted perspective on Nazi terror, so it's great. But still, we can identify a few things that remain. And so, for instance, the concentration camps, and I mean, that was one object of criticism in 78, 79, that you had this kind of very clean, sanitized version of concentration camps. So here we have exactly the same comments. Here you are. And I will give you a few more. There is another one who say, oh, I show it to my grandmother, inmate of concentration camp. And she say one word, rubbish. And another one who say, oh, unfortunately, Buchenwald looks absolutely nothing like that. And a few punctuation mark. It's the sanitized Hollywood Buchenwald. Okay, so that's this kind of comment. And another great subject of discussion for the people, for the users of YouTube, it's this man, it's Eric Doff. And I think he's the only character that gets so many comments. And here again, so how does this typical desk murderer Nazi perceived by people nowadays? And so there are many, many reactions, so I chose a few ones. And basically, what interests people is to see how the actor, Michael Moriarty's performance, matches their expectation of what a Nazi should be. So you have basically three interpretations. That is completely stiff, and that's correct because he's a monster and he has no empathy. And you have another one that says, yeah, no, it's because he's becoming desensitized. So, of course, you see the crumbling of the man like that. And the last version, of course, is that it is hiding all these emotional, things behind this cold facade. So more or less, that's the kind of comments that come with that. And a last subject. So yeah, of course. You see, I mean, these are really a lot of comments. And the last issue is the combination of fact and fiction. And we all know that Elie Wiesel has already pointed that in '78, saying more or less that it was the door open to Holocaust deniers. So how does it, what does it do on YouTube? Because YouTube is, of course, a perfect platform for all kinds of conspiracy theories. And I can say that, I bring you a bit further. You can find also some continuity in the comments that will come, because it's full of hate speech, of anti-Semitic remarks, and of course of Holocaust denial arguments. And you have the ones who react to that and who try to counter this kind of claims, or who engage in very, very heated debates with deniers. And what we find from what I read about the reception of the miniseries in Italy, so that was the text of Emiliano Pera, or from Jeffrey Herf in West Germany, in the late 70s, it was very much about American Jewish interest and Zionist conspiracy, and Hollywood as a way to frame a propaganda which was in favor of Israel, and so on and so forth. And this, of course, on YouTube, it's wonderful. I mean, it's well received. It's exactly the kind of comments people want to do. And so here you will have several examples. So a last question that comes is, one more story about, two more stories about these deniers and people in conspiracy theory. So this one, we go back to Truth Talk News, who, as you remember, put this fair use notice next to the video. So that's the kind of theory he comes up with. So that's quite typical of the discussions that go on for message after message after message. So that's one example. And the other example I wanted to point to is that anonymity makes a lot for these discussions, because people are completely protected by, their pseudonyms and all kinds of things. And so one wonders why, but I mean, I would point to the second remark, a Jew will not say God, and it's a very, very long discussion between a guy called R.R. Sandler and the other one called Pinhead. And the discussion goes as follows. 44 messages exchanged for a period of 5 months. And so after a couple of remarks about the miniseries, up they shift straight to the Middle East question. So you have, of course, a whole argument about the connection between Islam and fascism and the Nazis. So there is the Grand Mufti, and there is all the Nazis who find refuge in Syria, and so on and so forth. So another argument that comes from Pinhead, who is the Holocaust denier of the conversation, is that, of course, he's not a Holocaust denier because he's not an anti-Semite, because he comes from South America. And he knows something about post-colonialism and anti-imperialism. So he cannot be accused of being a Jew hater. So that's part of the discussion. Then they shift again to something else, and it's the problem of Pinhead that he cannot identify who is Sandler. And at the beginning he thinks, you must be a white supremacist because, you know, a Jew would not say God and a Muslim would say Allah, but you say God all the time, so that shows that you're a Christian. And then after a few more remarks he thinks and he says, no, and if it were actually a Jew who was making himself pass for a white Christian supremacist. So, I mean, people are completely lost in this kind of labyrinthic discussions with no clue, and so that makes also the violence of the discussion. So the question is, given the level of discussion on YouTube, I mean, should we, as someone suggests here, disable all the comments? And here I want to bring some elements of conclusion about the subject. It's an old debate because we know that in 78 and 79, what was also pointed out was the discrepancy between the television format and the subject of the Holocaust. And here up we're back into this kind of old debate that you have a discrepancy between new media and the subject of the Holocaust. And YouTube makes it even more violent because YouTube has a kind of reputation of being a dangerous space. And I think it comes in part from corporate companies that are not really happy to see that copyrighted content is just put online like this without their permission and bringing them no money. So I think in part, but it's only in part because YouTube is playing a very ambiguous game in that, but in part that has framed this idea in the mind of people that YouTube is a bit, and that fits very much with the idea that new media is a kind of wild space, and that the Holocaust will be, will run the risk of being misrepresented or trivialized or debased if it is not in the right, correct institutional hands. And so I want to conclude my talk by saying that we should look the other way around and see what bottom-up things appearing online, so these kind of comments or the way people upload the miniseries and all kinds of productions and artifacts that appear in social media, can reveal many, many things about the state of the cultural memory of the Holocaust nowadays. And coming back to YouTube, I mean, the use of YouTube is for Holocaust researchers could be also an access to some archive documents that sometimes are controlled by televisions, by broadcasters, and so on. And it also gives us the possibility to access some form of transnational reception of Holocaust movies and artifacts. So in a way, that's a huge terrain that is open, and we just need to devise further methodologies to see how we will tackle it and how we will research and store and classify and analyze these specific objects. And I think I will end here.
Okay, thank you. We could add something to that, because this is the constant discussion we have at the Institute with our YouTube channel and with our intentions to go on Facebook, and there are two fractions, because it's me and them, I would say, but they will tell you more about that, maybe about our problems. We turned the commentary off, to be honest. But our next speaker, and we will discuss that afterwards, is Guido Vitiello from the University of Rome. He is a researcher and assistant professor in the Faculty of Political Science, Sociology and Communication. And his book, and I don't say that in Italian, it's Imaginary Witness, Auschwitz, Film and Pop Culture, explores the Holocaust theme and iconography in genres such as science fiction, thriller, horror, erotic, and exploitation films. And this is exactly also the topic of his talk, which is called Time Travelers and War of the Worlds, the Impact of NBC's Holocaust on TV Science Fiction. And I'm asking to take the floor.
So thank you for the presentation and for the opportunity to be here. So not much has been written on science fiction and the Holocaust, and there's not much science fiction about the Holocaust. Needless to say, the impact of the Jewish extermination is not even remotely comparable to the influence that the atomic catastrophe of Hiroshima wielded on post-war and Cold War science fiction. Even in the vast field of sci-fi stories featuring Hitler and the Nazis, the Holocaust is scarcely evoked, for reasons that I will briefly point out later. So, the topic needs a short introduction. Maybe a good starting point, though unusual, could be the oft-cited testimony that Yechiel Dinur, Israeli writer known under the known name, because it would be improper to call it a pen name, of Katz-Ethnic, gave at the Eichmann trial in June 1961. Just before collapsing on the platform near the witness stand, Katz-Ethnic, a severely traumatized Auschwitz survivor, described the camp through a powerful allegory which combined science fiction and astrology. And I quote, "This is a chronicle of the planet of Auschwitz. I was there for about 2 years. The inhabitants of this planet had no names, they had no parents, nor did they have children. I believe with perfect faith that just as in astrology the stars influence our destiny, so does this planet of the ashes, Auschwitz, stand in opposition to our planet Earth and influences it." The image of the other planet soon became part of the noblest canon of the Holocaust discourse and was adopted by many distinguished authors, such as Elie Wiesel, as a metaphor for the radical otherworldliness of Auschwitz. But it also lived a second and shadowy life in the underworld of pop culture. In the weeks following Katz-Ethnic's witnessing, for example, the metaphor reappeared in one of the so-called stalags, cheap pocketbooks of sadomasochistic pornography set in prison camps that were very popular among the Israeli youths in the early 60s. 5 months later, the other planet was also evoked in a nearly science fiction context. In November 1961, the American network CBS aired an episode of the TV series The Twilight Zone, titled Dead Set Revisited. And here we have written by the series creator Rod Serling, who devoted a constant attention to the Holocaust theme and especially to the sub-theme of Nazi hunt. The episode, set in a fictive Dachau and openly inspired from the Jerusalem trial, features a former camp commander returning to the camp as a tourist many years after the war, who ends up being judged by a ghostly card composed of his victims. In the opening narration, Serling presented the concentration camp as an alien landscape, in terms strongly reminiscent of Katz-Ethnic. And I quote, "A place like Dachau cannot exist only in Bavaria. By its nature, by its very nature, it must be one of the populated areas of the Twilight Zone." Since that television debut, science fiction has dealt with the Holocaust in a variety of ways, even though variety is not the same as abundance. The Holocaust has been addressed as a historical benchmark of absolute evil, as in The Twilight Zone or in Star Trek, we will see an episode, or in Visitors, as a ciphered reference to an imminent apocalypse, as in Terminator, or in the sci-fi thriller Cassandra Crossing, as the ghost lurking behind contemporary anxieties like human cloning, technological self-destruction, or controlled society, and even as a source for paranormal powers or superpowers, as in Anna to the Infinite Power, or the sci-fi horror The Unborn, and especially the X-Men saga, where the villain Magneto derives his force and his anger from his traumatic past in Auschwitz, just as former superheroes derive theirs from nuclear radiations. The enormous popularity of the NBC miniseries Holocaust in 1978 marked a turning point also for science fiction. It played a crucial role in establishing the Holocaust as a new foundational trauma, what Hiroshima had been for post-war Cold War science fiction, and in turning the Holocaust into a negative myth of origin, as Avishai Margalit and Gabriel Motzkin called it. What's more important for my discourse, the miniseries was immensely impactful also in consecrating specific narrative approaches to the Holocaust. It imposed the form of family melodrama and emphasized the epics of Jewish resistance, especially through the story of young Rudi Weiss. Two science fiction TV shows from the early 80s helped to illuminate this point. The emphasis on the resistance fight and the larger frame of family melodrama are here entwined with two of the most typical sci-fi topoi, that of the War of the Worlds and that of time travel, both canonized by science fiction pioneer H.G. Wells in the late 19th century. The War of the Worlds is one of the classic narrative schemes in science fiction, since the novel with the same name, with the same title, written by H.G. Wells in 1898. Through the encounter with or between alien civilization, which usually takes the form of an invasion, science fiction is incessantly dealt in fictional terms with the historical, ethical, and political implications of the relation with the other and the stranger. Wells' Martian invasion functioned on one level as an allegory of British colonialism at its peak. Not by chance, it was revisited by Steven Spielberg in the post-9/11 key of The Clash of Civilization. He produced a remake of War of the Worlds. The first example of a War of the Worlds based on the Holocaust dates back to February 1968. It is an episode from the original Star Trek series broadcast by NBC. In this episode called Patterns of Force, the crew of the Enterprise lands on a planet named Echos. With their surprise, they discover that Echos is now dominated by a Nazi-inspired regime. Captain Kirk and First Officer Spock, heroes of the series, learn that the Echosians are planning a final solution, the extinction of all the Zeons who reside on their planet and the destruction of the neighboring planet Zeon. The Zeons clearly stand for the Jewish people. They also carry names like Isaac and Abram, just as the final solution refers transparently to the Nazi Endlösung. Kirk and Spock have to face a choice. Is it legitimate to intervene to save the Zeons, provided that the prime directive, that is the guiding principle of the United Federation of Planets, dictates to not interfere with the internal affairs of alien civilizations? The episode was broadcast when the Vietnam War was at its climax and was most contested, and raised in an interplanetary context the typical dilemma of American foreign policy, isolationism or interventionism, with a subtext involving the Six-Day War and the redefinition of the Israeli Jew as a warrior. There is also a scene, here this scene, that directly evokes Nazi racial policies. It is the one in which an expert on the genetics of racial purity analyzes Spock, suspected to be a Zeon spy. And he says, note the sinister eyes and the malformed ears, definitely an inferior race. Note the low forehead, denoting stupidity, the dull look of a trapped animal. The Holocaust is evoked here as a rather abstract example of oppression and injustice, devoid of melodramatic pathos, and as a source for lessons to be learned for the future, but the victims play no part in the transmission of this knowledge. 15 years later, NBC aired another example of War of the Worlds connected to the Holocaust. The popular TV miniseries Visitors was created by Kenneth Johnson, known for sci-fi TV classics like The $6 Million Man and The Bionic Woman, and was shown on TV in the first days of May 1983. The story is about the invasion of planet Earth by a race of reptilian aliens disguised as humans. These aliens, explicitly modeled on the Nazis, are initially acclaimed as benefactors because they show the intention of peacefully share their superior scientific knowledge. But very soon they create a police state, they perform the most horrible medical experiments, and even build concentration camps with a laser barbed wire, where they store human beings in frozen capsules to be shipped to their far galaxy and be used as a food source. The rise of the alien regime reproduces step by step the advent of the Third Reich. There is also a sort of alien Hitler Youth. Instead of the Jews, the aliens target the scientists as enemies. And the resistance fight against the reptilians is started by a Holocaust survivor, Abraham Bernstein, who had lost his wife in the camps. About halfway through the story, Abraham attempts to hide a scientist and his family, despite his son Stanley's terror at being discovered by the visitors who have taken over the government and are enforcing martial law. I would like to show here a short clip. So it was in...
Lynn and Stanley never use this place. It's just for storage.
The volume is...
God, it's gross. We can't live here. It's filthy.
We can clean it.
There's no way it's ever gonna
Robin. It's fine, Abraham. Thank you. Forgive my daughter's
It's all right. I understand.
I'm not sure I do. Father, can I talk to you outside? I really don't believe you brought them here.
They have nowhere to go. Their house is being watched now.
And so is ours, by Daniel. Tell them that we're sorry.
Stanley, you don't understand. They have to stay. They need a place to hide.
And why is that?
Because the father is a scientist.
And therefore suspect. And a fugitive, I take it, which would make them doubly dangerous.
They have to stay.
And I'm telling you to get them out of here before
I won't.
Then I will.
No, you won't. We had to put you in a suitcase. In a suitcase. You were 8 months old. That's how we smuggled you out.
I know the story, Father.
No, you don't. You don't. Your mother, Avshalom. Your mother didn't have a heart attack in the boxcar. She made it with me to the camp. I can still see her standing naked in the freezing cold. Her beautiful black hair was gone. They'd shaved her head. I can still see her waving to me as they marched her off with the others to the showers. The showers with no water. Perhaps if somebody had given us a place to hide. Don't you see, Stanley? They have to stay. Or else we haven't learned a thing.
This is... Okay. Okay. So there's still a lesson to be learned, a lesson about oppression and prejudice, in this case, anti-scientific prejudice. But this time it comes from the embodied memory of a witness. It should be noticed that this kind of character is not entirely new. The survivor as a depositary of a sort of oracular and prophetic wisdom that warns the others about the risks of technological hubris had already appeared in dystopic science fiction films of the 70s, such as Cassandra Crossing or Soylent Green. But only after the success of Holocaust could the science fiction fully enter the era of the witness. And relying on family melodrama and the epics of resistance, because the resistance starts from this survivor, Visitors can be seen almost as a sci-fi remake of Holocaust, showing the immense influence of the NBC series. Time travel is another popular topos of science fiction since the eponymous novel by H.G. Wells of 1895. It plays an important role in the subgenre of alternate or counterfactual history. Gabriel Rosenfeld, in his wide recollection of counterfactual narratives about the Third Reich, the world Hitler never made, observes that the Holocaust is rarely and cautiously approached in those fictions because an alternate version of history in which the Holocaust never happens would resonate disturbingly with the claims of Holocaust denial. Nonetheless, there are a few interesting exceptions. One of them is The Terminator, the 1984 post-apocalyptic film by James Cameron, where artificial intelligent machines seek to exterminate the human race. The Terminator is a cyborg assassin sent back in time to 1984 by the machines, with the mission of killing Sarah Connor and thus preventing the birth of her son, the future leader of human resistance. Also, the resistance fighters sent back in time one of their men to protect Sarah. This warrior shows Sarah the barcode tattooed by the machines on his arm, and describes the dark future with clear references to the deeds of the Sonderkommandos, although the Holocaust is never explicitly mentioned. Hunter-killers, patrol machines, building automated factories. Most of us were rounded up, put in camps for orderly disposal, burned in by lesser scan. Some of us were kept alive to work, loading bodies. The disposal units ran night and day. We were that close to going out forever. The time travel topos is used here to point at an apocalypse which is both past and future, since the barcode also evokes commodification, control society, and consumer culture. Elsewhere, time travel is used as a trick that allows members of the second generation to restore their broken family memories, as is a 1999 episode from the science fiction TV series The Outer Limits. It is called Tribunal and was written by author and producer Sam Egan, himself the son of a Holocaust survivor. The plot is rather convoluted, but through time travel, the protagonist of the episode can enact his own fantasy of witnessing, as Gary Weissman would call it, and as a chance to relive his family past in Auschwitz. Here we see a time travel with a Palm computer in Auschwitz. He also devises an experiment of poetic justice, because the old SS man who tortured his father and who is about to escape justice is sent back to the camp as a prisoner and gets killed by the younger version of himself. But the influence of Holocaust on science fiction is much more evident in Galactica 1980, a spin-off of the original Galactica series created by Glenn Larson and broadcast on the ABC network. The series came shortly after the enormous emotional impact of NBC's Holocaust, and the interesting point is that the time travel topos serves here as a narrative device to reverse the melodramatic formula on which Holocaust relied. It wouldn't be easy to expose in a few words the complex theory on melodrama and temporality proposed by Steve Neill in his classic article Melodrama and Tears of 1986, nor the Franco Moretti essay that Neill discussed at large. Suffice it to say that the melodramatic pathos derives from the powerlessness felt by the spectator, who knows more than the characters do about their fate, but cannot intervene to prevent it. As Moretti suggests, and I quote, "Tears are always the product of powerlessness. They presuppose two mutually opposed facts, that it is clear how the present state of things should be changed and that this change is impossible." The melodramatic pathos is thus the pathos of irreversibility, in a word, the feeling that it is too late. The Galactica saga is also suffused with Holocaust remembrances, although its creator based it principally on Mormon mythology. The basic plot is about a spaceship fleeing from an extermination plan. A race of warrior robots, the Cylons, announced the final annihilation of a human civilization from another galaxy. The few surviving humans are embarked on the Galactica with the hope to reach the promised land, planet Earth. In Galactica 1980, 2 astronauts from the crew are sent to Earth, but in the past. Their mission is to improve the scientific and technological knowledge of its inhabitants. They travel back to Nazi Germany with the prohibition of interfering in the earthly affairs, so to avoid altering the course of history, just as in Star Trek. When they see a group of people waiting to be deported to the camps, they know this from a journalist who accompanies them and who knows all the story. They don't want to do anything, but then they change their mind. Let's see how. Very short clip, this one.
What's that? I don't know. Troop movements, I think. Over there, quick, come on. Mach die Tür auf! Eilen Sie! Komm! Öffnen!
No, that isn't troop movement.
Alles raus!
It's called the final solution. Those people are being taken to concentration camps. Most of them will die there.
Women and children? What could they have done to deserve that?
Nothing. Hitler used a campaign of hatred against the people called Jews as a means of explaining away all the problems of his country. It obviously wasn't true. It was just a diabolical way of uniting all the dissidents in Germany. By the time they found out what Hitler really stood for, it was too late.
If this is what they do to people, maybe we ought to let Baviard do his worst here in Germany.
No. Those men with the swastika armbands are the kind of people he'd be bringing to power throughout the world.
Who is this Baviard? Gestapo?
Galactican.
Look, lady, you're making me very nervous with all this strange terminology.
He's like, you got a problem with terminology. When can we get moving?
Get moving. We gotta help those people on the train.
Can't do anything, Jamie. We're not supposed to be here, remember? My contact is in town. We wouldn't dare go till after dark.
Troy, Dylan, it's a little girl. She's coming right at us.
You get the guard, I'll get the girl.
Ich habe alt gesagt! Alt!
You're supposed to set up the stun.
Felger carve, I thought I did. Whatever your intentions were, you really fixed it good for us to stay here. Come on, get out of here.
Only when they empathize with the individual victim, when the big history becomes emotionally readable through the personal story, they decide to help the Jews, defeat the Nazis, and then fly away riding their space motorbikes. It looks nearly as a Schindler's List premonition. Notoriously, Oskar Schindler changes his mind and becomes a rescuer when he isolates in the crowd of the Krakow ghetto the individual figure of a little girl in a coat. But I think it can be better understood in an intertextual connection with Holocaust and with the emotions it enlashed. Through the topos of time travel, science fiction finds its way to overcome powerlessness, to reverse the melodramatic feeling of irreversibility, and to give the spectator the comforting illusion that it is never too late. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for this excursion into 80s television, science fiction television. Wir wechseln jetzt die Sprache ganz kurz. Für den nächsten Vortrag. Kirstin Frieden hat in Münster, Nordrhein-Westfalen, glaube ich, Germanistik und Geschichte studiert. Ihre Dissertation mit dem Titel Neuverhandlungen des Holocaust, mediale Transformationen des Gedächtnisparadigmas ist im Jänner 2014 im Transkript Verlag erschienen. Zurzeit arbeitet sie als Redakteurin in München und hat sehr viele eigene Veröffentlichungen und Vorträge, vor allem zur Bedeutung der neuen Medien in der Erinnerungskultur getätigt. Und ich bitte Sie, Ihren Vortrag mit dem Titel Digitalisierung und kein Ende, wie der Holocaust zu YouTube kam, zu beginnen.
Ja, herzlichen Dank für die freundliche Vorstellung und natürlich auch für die Einladung hierher nach Wien. Es ist für mich wirklich nicht nur eine große Freude, sondern auch eine Ehre, hier zu sein und jetzt auch am Ende nach diesen 3 Tagen voller inspirierender Vorträge das Wort zu haben und noch einmal vielleicht etwas zusammenzuführen und unsere Gedanken noch mal weiterzulenken in die Zukunft der Erinnerung, vielleicht noch einen Mediensprung eben weiterzugehen, nämlich zu den neuesten Medien und speziell zu YouTube. Wenn wir uns in den vergangenen Tagen mit der Entwicklung der Holocaust-Repräsentation im Film und im Fernsehen beschäftigt haben und dabei gewissermaßen der Frage nachgegangen sind, wie der Holocaust zur Primetime in den Film kam, dann wird mein Vortrag jetzt die Frage behandeln, wie und warum eigentlich der Holocaust zu YouTube kam. Und was machen wir eigentlich damit? Wie finden wir das? Wie wir das finden, auch das wurde in den letzten Tagen immer wieder thematisiert, wenn es um die Rezeption ging. Wie kann man etwas finden? Gut, schlecht, angebracht, unangemessen, politisch korrekt, trivial, geschmacklos? Mir geht es gleichzeitig um eine ästhetische wie auch um eine ethische Fragestellung, auch wenn sich das natürlich zuweilen ausschließt. Was ist guter Geschmack, wenn es um die Thematisierung des Holocaust geht? Was ist vermeintlich korrekt? Für die Thematisierung des Holocaust in der Öffentlichkeit, in den Massenmedien, scheinen wir es mit 2 Phänomenen zu tun zu haben. Erstens, die Darstellung dieses Themas ist häufig eine ästhetische Geschmacksfrage, eine des historischen Geschmacks, wenn man so will. Kaum ein Thema wird derart, vor allen Dingen in Deutschland, emotional debattiert, verhandelt, sensibel ausgesprochen oder unter Aufwand verschwiegen wie der Umgang mit der nationalsozialistischen Vergangenheit. Phänomen 2, und das gehört meiner Meinung nach mit dem ersten ganz eng zusammen, zu der Geschmacksfrage, wie ästhetisch ich also eine Darstellung und wie angebracht ich eine Darstellung, eine Präsentation des Holocaust eigentlich finde, dazu scheint schier jeder eine Meinung zu haben und im Idealfall auch eine ethisch begründete Meinung. Dazu kommt, wie das bei Geschmäckern nun mal so üblich ist, es lässt sich ganz hervorragend darüber streiten. Und das ist auch gut so. Denn nur so kann die Vergangenheit im Gespräch bleiben, nur das sorgt für neue Verhandlungsweisen, eine neue Sprache im Holocaust-Diskurs. Manchmal, so erscheint es mir jedenfalls, bedarf es ein paar Anregungen, kleinerer oder größerer, auch gern medial inszenierter Aufreger, um die Diskussion am Laufen zu halten. Es braucht und brauchte meiner Meinung nach schon immer einen Stachel in der Erinnerungskultur, in einem drohenden Diskurskonsens, denn der Konsens, das wissen wir alle, in einer Diskussion führt zu nichts. Wir brauchen also einen unsichtbaren Pfahl im Fleisch der Menschheit, wie es Salomon Korn einmal formulierte, als es darum ging, wie eigentlich das neue Holocaust-Mahnmal in Berlin gestaltet werden sollte. Wir brauchen diesen Pfahl, diesen Stachel, damit die Wunde Auschwitz sich nie ganz schließt, es weiter wehtut, uns damit zu beschäftigen, wir uns weiter an dem Thema und an den unterschiedlichen Repräsentationen dieses Themas reiben und streiten können. Über ein Format und je nach Zeit 1 bis 2 Beispiele, die vielleicht als ein solcher Stachel oder als ein Impuls dienen können, möchte ich in den folgenden Minuten mit Ihnen sprechen. Ich werde also kurz noch mal allgemein einführen zu der Frage, befinden wir uns eigentlich auf dem Weg, ist es eine Tendenz zur digitalen Erinnerungskultur des Holocaust? Dann komme ich mit einem Beispiel, Dancing Auschwitz, also ein YouTube-Video aus dem Jahre 2010. Danach werde ich kurz noch mal zusammenfassen, warum ich der Meinung bin, dass sich die Geschichte wiederholt, nämlich vor allem die Geschichte oder die Debatte um diese neuen Formate auf YouTube. Als Beispiel 2 habe ich Collision Prevent oder auch als Arbeitstitel Adolf gewählt, was nochmal eine ganz andere Form von Auseinandersetzung bzw. Repräsentation des Holocaust ist, oder wo das Thema aufgegriffen wird, eben in Form einer Werbung. Und im Abschluss die Frage Digitalisierung und kein Ende, wo führt uns das eigentlich hin? Was machen wir eigentlich damit? Ich beginne, wie sich das für eine Literaturwissenschaftlerin, die ich bin, gehört, mit einem Zitat. Was heute noch lebendige Erinnerung ist, wird morgen nur noch über die Medien vermittelt sein. Nun gut, man müsste dieses etwas in die Jahre gekommene Zitat von Jan Assmann vielleicht mittlerweile schon umformulieren. Was gestern noch lebendige Erinnerung war, wird morgen oder vielleicht auch erst übermorgen nur noch über die neuen Medien vermittelt sein. Ich widme mich also dem sozusagen jüngsten Stand der medialen Vermittlung und der im weitesten Sinne kulturellen, künstlerischen Auseinandersetzung mit der NS-Vergangenheit und möchte Sie einladen, dabei zweierlei Dinge mit mir zu überlegen. Der erste Punkt ist, verdienen die neuen Medien, die YouTube-Clips, die ich Ihnen gleich zeigen werde, überhaupt noch die Bezeichnung Erinnerungsmedien? Oder stehen sie eher für die Dekonstruktion von Erinnerung und Gedenken, wie wir sie kennen und wie sie in den vergangenen Jahrzehnten geschützt, bewahrt und auch um sie gekämpft wurde? Vielleicht sogar noch schlimmer. Steht diese Entwicklung gar für eine finale Trivialisierung dessen, was jahrzehntelang mühsam als kollektives Gedächtnis, als Erinnerungskultur aufgebaut wurde? Und zweitens, sicherlich etwas provokant formuliert, was wäre denn so schlimm daran, wenn es so wäre? Gab es nicht auch zum Beispiel viele Stimmen, die nach Ausstrahlung der Serie Holocaust die Hände über den Kopf zusammengeschlagen haben und der Meinung waren, so dürfte man mit dem Thema doch nun wirklich nicht umgehen. Das sei das Ende des angemessenen Gedenkens. Vielleicht steht uns also mit dem Sprung zu den neuen Medien, was ja in keinem Fall heißt, dass es die alten, traditionellen Medien nicht mehr gibt, einfach nur ein weiterer Paradigmenwechsel in der Erinnerungskultur ins Haus. Ein weiterer Meilenstein, wie es vielleicht oder ganz sicher auch die Fernsehserie Holocaust war. Meilensteine und Paradigmenwechsel, wenn wir diesen Gedanken kurz weiterverfolgen, lassen sich an historischen, politischen, gesellschaftlichen Zensuren einerseits, aber eben auch am medialen, kommunikativen Wandel andererseits ausmachen. Und dieser, ich denke, da würden Sie mir alle zustimmen, bestimmt uns heute alltäglich und überall. Als geradezu ein natürlicher Entwicklungsschritt darf daher gelten, dass der unaufhaltbare Fortschritt der Medien- und Kommunikationskultur auch immer neue Möglichkeiten und Auseinandersetzungsformen mit der Vergangenheit hervorbringt. Dazu ein Zitat von Rolf Kannsteiner, der leider nicht mehr da ist. Schade. Zum ersten Mal in der Menschheitsgeschichte werden Erzählkultur und Geschichtsbewusstsein bald vollständig durch interaktive Medien vermittelt. Das könnte man fast hernehmen als Umwandlung oder Weiterentwicklung des Zitats von Jan Assmann, was ich vorher gebracht habe. Seit einiger Zeit schon, also etwa so seit 2010 im besonderen Maße, sprießen immer wieder neue interaktive, multimediale Formen und Formate der Holocaust-Repräsentation aus dem ja ohnehin sehr reich gesäten Boden der Erinnerungskultur. Ich habe Ihnen hier einfach nur mal überblicksweise ein paar Screenshots aufgelegt. Von Videotagebüchern Holocaust-Überlebender, geschichtsdidaktischen Lernprogrammen und virtuellen Rundgängen durch Museen und Gedenkstätten bis hin zu Freundschaften mit Holocaust-Opfern auf Facebook oder dem YouTube-Video Dancing Auschwitz, um das es hier gleich noch gehen soll, spannt sich der Bogen schier unbegrenzter Möglichkeiten einer Erinnerungskultur im Web 2.0. Dabei scheint klar, dass diese neuen Repräsentationsformen in erster Linie die junge Generation, die ja schon sogenannte Mediengeneration oder die Digital Natives ansprechen sollen. Klar scheint aber auch, und dies wird gleichzeitig oft als problematisch begriffen, dass es in einigen dieser Formate mehr um Erlebnis und Entertainment und weniger um historische Aufklärung geht. Histotainment scheint das Gebot der Stunde zu sein. Der mediale Fortschritt macht also auch vor dem sensibelsten aller Themen, dem Holocaust, nicht Halt. Was aber zeichnen die neuen Formate einer digitalen, interaktiven Erinnerungskultur eigentlich aus? Können sie leisten, was das Medium verspricht, also eine besondere Aufmerksamkeit generieren, gerade bei der jungen Generation, angemessene Übersetzung des Themas in die Gegenwart, mediale Angemessenheit, eine hohe Erreichbarkeit, interaktive Möglichkeiten. Wir haben es gerade schon gesehen, dass man also auch sich darüber austauschen kann, direkt im Internet über Kommentare und so weiter. Ich denke schon, dass sie das können, zumindest teilweise. Eine gewinn- und zukunftsbringende Erinnerungskultur braucht meiner Meinung nach diese Mediensprünge, also die Anpassung an immer neue Mediengepflogenheiten, an die Sinnbedürfnisse und Bezugsrahmen der jeweiligen Gegenwarten, wie es Jan Assmann formuliert, vor allem, um tatsächlich die junge Generation noch zu erreichen. Also ich habe meine Erfahrungen gemacht, als ich als Lehrkraft tätig war. Das scheint tatsächlich etwas zu sein, womit man die jungen Menschen erreichen kann. Aber sie braucht außerdem, und das ist auch wichtig, die Debatten um diese Formate, dass wir darüber sprechen, damit das Sprechen über diese Vergangenheit und auch das Streiten über die angemessene oder nicht angemessene, vielleicht triviale Darstellung fortgeführt werden kann. Ich möchte Sie jetzt gerne direkt in mein erstes Beispiel hineinwerfen und bin gespannt, wie sich dabei Ihr ästhetischer und ethischer Geschmack regt. Der Clip, ich weiß nicht, einige kennen ihn sicherlich, lässt aber vielleicht bei anderen auch erstmal aufhorchen, vielleicht sogar zusammenschrecken, wenn man sich ungläubig fragt, Dancing Auschwitz, wie passt denn das zusammen? Schauen wir uns das mal an. Jetzt hoffe ich, ich finde es direkt, was dahinter liegt. Okay. Ton ist... müsste...
Bye. someone would tell me here then that I will come 60, 73 years later with my grandchildren, so I said, what are you talking about? What you talking about? So here you are. This is really a historical moment.
Okay, also was sehen wir hier? Zunächst einmal, ich glaube, das habe ich auch ein bisschen beobachtet, sieht das irgendwie komisch aus. Man kann auch ein Schmunzeln an der einen oder anderen Stelle kaum verbergen. Ein alter Mann, offensichtlich ein Survivor, tanzt, anfangs noch unbeholfen, später durchaus selbstbewusster, vor den Symbolen der Massenvernichtung. Vor den Verbrennungsöfen der Krematorien, der Toreinfahrt in das KZ, den Güterwaggons, mit denen die Juden zu Tausenden in die Vernichtungslager gebracht wurden. Der Mann ist dabei nicht allein. Er wird ebenfalls tanzend begleitet von einigen jüngeren Menschen, die dank ihrer T-Shirt-Aufdrucke als Nachkommen der zweiten und dritten Generation zu identifizieren sind. Und im Übrigen sind es seine Enkelkinder und seine Tochter, Jane Corman, die das Video auch initiiert hat und produziert hat. Sie ist Performance-Künstlerin und hat also eine Reise mit ihrem Vater und der Familie unternommen, um an diese Orte des Schreckens noch einmal zu reisen und daraus dieses Video zu machen. Zunächst also irgendwie komisch. Und dann beginnt man vielleicht nachzudenken. Wie finden wir das? Der Holocaust als YouTube-Thema. YouTube. Eine schier unübersehbare Anzahl von in der Regel entkontextualisierten, oftmals sogar nur in Ausschnitten wiedergegebenen Fotos und Filmen, die im Wesentlichen nur die Schaulust der User, aber kein Aufklärungsbedürfnis bedienen und deren Herkunft, Kontext und Authentizität oft völlig unsicher sind. Ist das also nun tatsächlich der passende Ort für die bewegten Erinnerungen eines Überlebenden, für die Auseinandersetzung mit dem Holocaust, für ein Erinnerungszeugnis? Ohne Herkunft, Kontext und Authentizität zu kennen, ist es sicherlich schwierig. Auch dass hier ausgerechnet auf dem Gelände des ehemaligen Konzentrationslagers Auschwitz, welches ja als das Symbol des Massenmords gilt und für viele, gerade auch für Überlebenden, ja eher ein Ort ist, vielleicht der Stille und der Andacht und nicht unbedingt ein Ort zum Tanzen, dass ausgerechnet dort getanzt wird und dann auch noch zu den Disco-Klassiker, zu der homosexuellen Hymne I Will Survive, macht auf den ersten kontextlosen Blick eher den Eindruck eines unappetitlichen Scherzes und weniger nach einer substanziellen Vergegenwärtigung der Vergangenheit. Also hier tatsächlich Trivialisierung des Holocaust, Dekonstruktion von Erinnerung. Ich finde nein, das Video braucht natürlich den Kontext, wie so viele oder wie alle Repräsentationen des Holocaust. Wenn man diesen Kontext allerdings hat, dann ist dieses Video von diesem Überlebenden der lebendige Ausdruck des Triumphes über die Nazis. Wir erinnern uns, und da gab es, glaube ich, auch den einen oder anderen Schmunzler, als Ado Lecon vor den Verbrennungsöfen steht und das Victory-Zeichen macht. Es ist also im wahrsten Sinne ein bewegendes Zeugnis eines Überlebenden. Die Erinnerungen an die persönlich erlebten Schrecken des Holocaust werden dabei meines Erachtens nicht dekonstruiert und trivialisiert, sondern auf der Medienebene gedacht, verändern sie ihren Aggregatzustand. Sie werden transformiert, remedialisiert, und zwar in ein für alles sichtbares Medium, das damit quasi den Anspruch hat, für immer lebendig zu bleiben. Die Initiatorin dieses Videos, also die Tochter von Ado Lecon, hat auch gesagt, sie wollte eine fresh perspective, also eine lebendige, frische Perspektive auf die Geschichte ihres Vaters werfen. Und natürlich kann man hier trotzdem die Correctness zur Disposition stellen und sich fragen, ob Auschwitz sich denn so als ein Ort, an dem man gerne tanzt, eignet. Ob zukünftige Formate der Vergangenheitsreflexion unbedingt derart aufmerksamkeitsgenerierend, vielleicht gar skandalös sein müssen, um gehört, gesehen und besprochen zu werden. Ist also die provokante, Moral, Ethik und guten Geschmack herausfordernde Bild-, Ton- und Textsprache diejenige, die zu einer Neuverhandlung des Holocaust und zum nächsten Paradigmenwechsel führt? Wenn wir davon ausgehen, und ich denke, das haben ja auch die letzten beiden Tagungstage gezeigt, dass sich die Erzählungen über den Holocaust und seine mediale Darstellung über die vergangenen Jahrzehnte hinweg verändert haben, auch weil sich die Kultur, die Medien, die Bedürfnisse geändert haben, dann lassen sich in der Rückschau immer wieder Markierungen, wenn nicht gar Paradigmenwechsel auszeichnen, die zu nachhaltigen Veränderungen in der Erinnerungskultur geführt haben. Also zum Beispiel von der privaten zur öffentlichen Erinnerung, vom Verschweigen zum Sprechen. Und heute dann vielleicht von der analogen zur digitalen Erinnerung. Ich möchte abschließend noch mal kurz anknüpfen an das, was der Aufhänger für diese Tagung war, nämlich die TV-Serie Holocaust. Wenn wir die Bedeutung dieser Serie für die Erinnerungskultur herunterbrechen, ich hoffe, Sie erlauben mir diese Verknappung an dieser Stelle, dann wurde mit Holocaust zum ersten Mal die privaten, individuellen Erinnerungen an die NS-Zeit und ihre bis dato traumatische Verschwiegenheit öffentlich, medienwirksam, massen- und zielgruppenorientiert thematisiert und inszeniert. Doch gerade diese Inszeniertheit, die ja vor allem auch auf den kommerziellen Erfolg ausgerichtet war, stieß die Debatte über die Legitimität der populären Medienwahl an. Der Holocaust im Format einer Daily Soap, das konnte man nicht gutheißen, oder doch? Damals erschien das Format nicht nur ungewöhnlich, sondern mitunter auch schlicht unpassend. Heute, da filmische Thematisierungen der NS-Zeit allgegenwärtig und nur noch manchmal einen nachhaltigen Skandal provozieren, erhitzen also vor allem die Formate der neuen Medien die Diskussion um angemessene Darstellungsformen des Holocaust. Und damit haben wir heute in der Rezeption eine ganz ähnliche Situation mit den neuen Medien oder mit YouTube, wie damals mit dem visuellen Medium, dem neuen Medium damals und der Serie Holocaust. Der mediale Relaunch, wenn man es so nennen will, des Holocaust sind immer wieder aktuellere, neuere Formen und Formate, die Repräsentationserlaubnis populärer, eher unter Trivialisierungsverdacht stehender Medien in Bezug auf die nationalsozialistische Vergangenheit und damit eben die Adoption des Holocaust als ein Produkt der Popular Culture ist und bleibt offensichtlich, damals wie heute, ein überaus streitbares Thema, an dem sich Geister und guter Geschmack scheiden und sich hin und wieder eben ein kleinerer oder auch größerer Skandal entfacht. Sicherlich kein Skandal, aber ich zum Abschluss meines Vortrages und dieses Tages, dieses Panels, vielleicht noch einmal eine ganz andere Art von Holocaust im Film. Nicht zur Primetime, sondern als Werbung. Der Film heißt Collision Prevent oder als Arbeitstitel Adolf genannt. Ich möchte ihn Ihnen zeigen. Ach so, muss über. Okay, öffnen mit. Ja, dieses Video stammt von einem jungen, 33-jährigen Filmstudenten, Tobias Hase, von der Baden-Württembergischen Filmakademie, der diesen fiktiven Werbefilm 2013 als Abschlussarbeit veröffentlicht hat, unter anderem auf YouTube, wobei er es dort nur veröffentlichen durfte, das Video mit dem Zusatz, kein autorisierter Mercedes-Spot. Der musste also durchlaufen und auch als Screen vorher geschaltet werden. Was ist der Clou an diesem Spot, wenn es denn einen gibt? Man muss ihn natürlich, und das gilt für dieses Video genauso wie für viele andere Formate, kontextualisieren müssen. Man muss zumindest auch ein Minimum an historischem Wissen haben, damit man überhaupt verstehen kann, worin darin die Provokation liegt, die ja nicht nur daran liegt, dass dort ein Kind überfahren wird, was natürlich provokant genug ist. Man muss die Zeit, also vermutlich Ende des 19. Jahrhunderts, den Ort Braunau im Oberösterreich als Geburtsort Hitlers erkennen. Gut, auch die Darstellung oder die Physiognomie Hitlers ist vielleicht angedeutet. Sicherlich die Hakenkreuzposition des überfahrenen Jungen in der letzten Einstellung. All diesen Symbole, davon gibt es einige mehr. Was erzählt aber der Spot? Welche Narration von NS-Geschichte, wenn man sie denn überhaupt hier suchen will, wird hier präsentiert? Eigentlich ist der Plot vor allem problematisch und in gewisser Weise gar geschichtsverfälschend. Diese Version erzählt die NS-Geschichte so, als sei Adolf Hitler der Einzige, der die Gefahr provoziert und das Böse geschürt hätte. Sie erzählt weiter, hätte man Hitler früh, also am besten in seiner Kindheit, schon aufgehalten, hätte man die Gefahr bekämpft, bevor die Kollision, der Zivilisationsbruch, seinen Lauf genommen hätte. Diese Sicht auf die Geschichte und die Herleitung des darin enthaltenen Tätermotivs ist sicherlich außerordentlich problematisch. Aber es ist die Frage, wofür problematisch? Was will dieses Video? Was machen wir damit? Als didaktisches Lehrstück, als Geschichtsschreibung oder Aufklärung taugt der Film ganz sicher nicht. Das leistet aber vielleicht auch das Video Dancing Auschwitz nicht wirklich. Aber will das Video das überhaupt? Muss der Film das überhaupt? In einem Interview sagt der Regisseur Hase später, sein Anliegen sei die Provokation gewesen. Er wollte kein politisches oder historisches Statement abgeben, sondern Aufmerksamkeit erzielen und die Menschen dazu bringen, einfach über die Frage nachzudenken, darf man das? Ist das geschmacklos? Und dann wurde er gefragt, man setzt es in die Welt und lässt es laufen, so Hase. So leicht kann man sich die Sache sicherlich nicht immer machen. Aber schlussendlich ist der Film natürlich eine Art von Kunst, Werbekunst, und bedient eine andere Ebene der Auseinandersetzung mit dem Holocaust. Diejenige, die eine freie, vielleicht von Tabus befreite Sprache forciert, indem er einfach dieses Thema aufgreift und ihn für sein Werbeprojekt verwendet. Daher ist es vielleicht gar nicht so spannend, was der Film ausdrückt, welche historische Genauigkeit er zeigt, sondern vielmehr auch die Reaktion, die er erzielte, den Diskurs über eine freiere Sprache, darüber, dass er als junger deutscher Filmregisseur dieses Thema aufgreift. Sicherlich auch die Empörung, die es gab, also er wurde auch stark angefeindet und natürlich hat Mercedes auch sofort interveniert und gesagt, er könne das auf gar keinen Fall veröffentlichen. Aber er hat eben auch Preise dafür erhalten und das Video wurde über 3 Millionen Mal geklickt. Die Frage am Ende ist, Hitler als Werbeformel und Slogan, Auschwitz als YouTube-Titel und nicht als Tat, sondern Drehort, als Tanzfläche gar? Sieht so die Zukunft der Holocaust-Darstellung aus? Alles nur noch Inszenierung, Reduktion auf die großen Labels, Hitler, Auschwitz. Nicht mehr als eine Moralkeule, sondern als substanzlose Schlagworte eingesetzt in einem substanzlosen Medium, dem Internet. Digitalisierung ohne Sinn und Verstand also? Digitalisierung ohne Ende, was machen wir damit? Und wie finden wir das eigentlich? Vielen Dank.
Okay, thank you. Since the last lecture also had a lot of visuality, and you could understand what it is about, basically, because you have seen the both iconic clips. I think we can make the discussion with this lecture also in English. So I would suggest we switch to English. And we have here the first Raphael Rauch and then Judith Kalbach.
I have a remark on Stéphanie's fantastic lectures. Thank you so much for your presentation, because I think Tina addressed the gender aspect in Unsere Mütter, Unsere Väter, the different perception of gender roles of, weak men and strong Nazi women. Your comment, like, his wife has a bigger penis than he does on this YouTube channel, remind me to, I think, interpretation we also can see at the TV miniseries Holocaust, which goes back, I think, and Rachel Pelfreyman, a British scholar, pointed it out, to the very misogynist trope of the ambitious Lady Macbeth who directs her reluctant man into horrible crimes. I think this is a trope we can see in very often in Holocaust movies, and also in some other adaptation of that. So it's interesting that even Unsere Mütter, Unsere Väter, and even the Facebook comment differentiate this gender role. And also not a question, but a comment, or I would like to challenge your interpretation about how important historical knowledge is in order to understand this Mercedes-Benz spot, or not Mercedes-Benz spot. I think, at least in Germany, the name Adolf says everything. So even if you think and stick to the Austrian narrative that, Beethoven was Austrian and Adolf was German, even if you have no clue that Adolf lived in Austria, I think the name Adolf, the black hair, and this very, very small shot where we can see Hitler's photo tells it also. You don't need good historical background in order to get the message. That's my point.
Yeah, thank you. I have a comment for the first and the last presentation. Maybe I start with the last one. And this is maybe more a media studies remark, because at one point of your lecture you mentioned something like there's a paradigm shift in memory culture or something like that, or in Holocaust memory, sorry, the paradigm shift in Holocaust memory, and you related to the media. So in a way you suggest that there are new media, and therefore maybe it's possible that we also have a different Holocaust memory, and I would doubt that. And this is really from a media theory perspective, because I would say it has nothing to do with new media. I mean, there is, for example, this argument that new media always remediate old media, so the content of new media is always old media, you could say, and what we see on YouTube is we watch, for example, Holocaust, which is from 79, so it's a remediation, you could say. So I would be a little bit careful with this statement, I would say. And then the other question is, well, what is new media at all? I mean, what you've showed us, you could say, well, this has nothing to do with digitization, because these are films. They are filmed. They could also be experimental films that were shown at, film festivals or whatever. Well, they are distributed on the internet, but does that really mean that it is a new medium, for example? So maybe we have to differentiate between production and distribution, and maybe there is a film that is maybe filmed digitally, but it could also be filmed on 16mm or whatever, but the distribution happens via new media. And I think it's really important to differentiate that, because I think the distribution is more a problem. And this brings me to the first talk, because I think it's interesting that you talked about this unbundling of Holocaust, so that we have these little scenes. This is what television studies calls unbundling of scenes. You have this, and I find this is interesting, because here the logics of sharing economy is relevant. So we share these little, 3-minute clips, and we can share them on Facebook. So this has to do with distribution. I think this is very, very important. And another remark has also to do with YouTube as a distribution platform, because you mentioned something like that you can use YouTube as an archive to find archival material. And This is also how I use YouTube. But on the other hand, I always doubt because, well, it has to do a lot with trust and let's say with institutional framing, because a lot of the material that you find, archival material that you find on YouTube is maybe not the real archival footage like you might find it in a film archive, for example. So how do we know if this is really the, I don't know, original, or, well, you wouldn't call it like that. So it's about institutional framing, it's about a question of trust. And I always wondered how, for example, the Shoah Foundation handles the testimonies, because the testimonies they have are on YouTube, and the problem is that you can take something that is considered to be authentic and true, and that these things can be used, I mean re-edited, and they are used for anti-Semitic and Holocaust denial video clips, for example. And I think this is the moment when it gets really problematic, that you have like archival footage that is distributed on the internet and everybody can use it, uses it, and due to the digitization it can be misused in a way. So that is my comment. Sorry, a little bit too long.
Okay, then.
Judith's comment brought me to the idea that maybe you should say something positive about, multimedia use, because otherwise the message is like, multimedia is like bad. No. I just, after Frieden's presentation, I know a very good project in Berlin. It's called like Audio Cacher. It's the idea that you can share with your smartphone. You can walk around, for example, the Kurfürstendamm, where a lot of Jews used to live, and randomly you can log into audio sources which tell you the story about the people who live there, about Jewish places and so on. And for me that's really, like Web 2.0, a very... Pun? No? Can't challenge me?
Yeah, later. No, but I mean, again, from a media studies perspective or from a media archaeological perspective, I would say, but this project, I know it very well, you can do it also with a Walkman, with a audio tape, so it's not even necessary to call it, it's not necessarily digital, doesn't have to be digital media to use this project, for example. So my argument is be careful with ascribing, everything is new due to new media. It's more like think about maybe these projects were already around, although they were just analog media. So that's my point.
I would just answer to that very, very shortly. I think the big difference is for a Walkman, you need the intent or the objective to learn something about this, but this idea is different. You are randomly working there, and either you can listen to a pianist who lived there, or you can randomly listen to a Holocaust survivor story, so I think that makes the difference.
So we take back the floor now. Sorry, just to interrupt the discussion. And just to finish the first round, I have a question to Guido Vitiello, because I was wondering, sometimes I have the feeling we do not make a sharp distinction between what is cinema and film and television, which was, I think, the intention of the conference to make it clearer. And what I found in your lecture was it was really only television examples. And is there a very specific thing? Does television have this approach in science fiction? Are there very similar things in film? Do they use the same paradigms or whatever? Or is it? Or can you kind of outline something which makes it very specifically television, that you have these episodes on Holocaust and science fiction? Is there something which makes it very specific, the medium itself, or is it just a stupid question of my side? Okay, Kirstin, or no, Stéphanie.
They should start.
Mm-hmm. No, you should think about the question. Yes.
Yeah, so what question exactly? That were more comments, so I mean I can react to comments, but I mean I have a very clear position about, I think there is a lack of methodologies and interest in what I call bottom-up in contrast to top-down production in new media. And I mean, you tend to hear lectures in which people will tell you that there are some ethical demands and how we should do so that the audience can really understand how they should look at the thing. And I think it's such a... I mean, people are not completely stupid, and people do good things, and so let's have a bit of faith for what they do, and especially let's try to find some methodologies, because what we forget also is that it's not only it's material, it's visual, but it's material, and as a material, it has a way to be stored, to be classified, to be analyzed. So it's not just a few images, it's something that is far more physical than we tend to think, because for us now, new media, it's a kind of a dematerialized thing. So there are a lot of issues in methodology and in conception that still need to be elaborated, and I think we are just at the very beginning. So I mean, it's a kind of window wide open onto what people think now about the Holocaust. And we don't know exactly where to look at, and we don't know how to delineate objects of study. So I think it's the main task that is to be conducted right now. So.
Yeah. Yes, I think you're right. It's the beginning, perhaps, of a process. And I, in my position when I was writing my doctor's thesis was the comments you had in your lecture. How can we contextuate it, and how can we analyze these comments? And there is no ich mache es auf Deutsch. Ich denke, es ist derzeit wirklich noch schwierig. Was machen wir damit? Wie können wir damit wissenschaftlich umgehen? Wie können wir diese neuen Medien analysieren und für die Wissenschaft brauchbar machen? Ich möchte aber noch mal ganz kurz was sagen zu der Frage, ob eigentlich die neuen Medien, ob man wirklich sagen kann, dass damit jetzt ein Wechsel oder ein Paradigmenwechsel stattfindet. Man darf das sicherlich nicht zu hoch hängen. Also mir ging es vor allen Dingen auch um die Rezeption. Also welche Auswirkungen hat das, oder wie können wir eigentlich die jüngere Generation, das ist so ein bisschen mein Ansatz, für dieses Thema sensibilisieren und die Aufmerksamkeit erregen. Und darin sehe ich durchaus einen Wandel, weil tatsächlich ja sich die Generationen wechseln und es die junge Generation gibt, die tatsächlich einen ganz anderen, natürlicheren Zugang zu dem Thema entwickeln. Und deswegen sind solche Projekte, es gibt auch in München so ein ähnliches Memory Loops, wo man eben auch, ich habe das mit Schülern selber mal gemacht, mit der Schulklasse durch München gehen kann, und auf dem ist natürlich ein Audio, ist nichts Neues, kein neues Medium, aber wo die Schüler eben interaktiv mit diesen Orten in München agieren können. Und von daher denke ich, ist es nicht der Weisheitsletzter Schluss. Und es ist natürlich die Frage, was kam eigentlich zuerst, das Medium, und wurden dann die Projekte dazu gemacht? Oder gab es diese Projekte, wird es die sowieso gegeben, wenn es die neuen Medien dafür nicht gibt? Aber ich denke, es ist auf jeden Fall für mich ist es ein Weg, tatsächlich das Thema in die Zukunft zu transferieren in gewisser Weise.
Ich habe Frau Früh auf das passt.
Thank you so much, Dr. Frieden, for your paper. I found it very interesting. Naturally, I'm very intrigued by dancing Auschwitz. As a musicologist, I kind of immediately thought, this is the first true music video that we are actually seeing. And I wonder if you have a little bit more elaboration why Gloria Gaynor's song was being used. Actually a cover, because she composed the song, or sang the song in 1978, but and it was actually not then a gay symbol at all. So this whole video comes full circle in the sense of choosing a cover from the musical Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, which actually makes this song then the gay anthem, because originally it was really kind of a song that centered on how to deal with devastation and how to find strength after devastation, which is a theme that I think relates as a larger universal theme very, very well to the image.
and also in a way to the dancing, how to regain strength. But then, you know, the cover is being used. So I wonder, did you do any research on why this has been used, in what context, and also the shift in music? All of a sudden it stops, a new piece starts, and it then fades out, and the meaning of this.
Ich antworte Ihnen auch in Deutsch, weil ich weiß, dass Sie Deutsch verstehen. Ich habe mich damit nicht beschäftigt, warum genau dieser Song gewählt worden ist. Ich kann Ihnen aber dazu sagen, dass es diesen Song in dem Video heute nicht mehr gibt. Also das ist eine Version, die jetzt also heute nicht mehr auf YouTube zur Verfügung steht, weil die Plattenfirma verboten hat, diesen Song weiterhin zu verwenden. Wobei natürlich da ist spannend, tatsächlich wäre die Gründe dafür zu erfahren, warum das so war, also warum dieser Song verboten worden ist für diesen Clip. Aber wie gesagt, ich kann Ihnen leider nichts dazu sagen, warum die Jane Corman ausgerechnet diesen Song gewählt hat. Ich denke, auch da, ich meine, I Will Survive spricht natürlich für sich, ja, also alleine schon der Titel des Songs, aber ob da ein weiterer, tieferer Grund dahinter war, kann ich Ihnen leider nicht beantworten. Sorry.
Guido.
So thank you for your question. I chose to focus on two examples of TV science fiction, in part, of course, because the focus of the conference was on TV, and also because they had the similar form to Holocaust. They were both TV miniseries, and in the case of Visitor, the structure has much in common with Holocaust. But I don't see a specific some specific characteristics of TV science fiction and the Holocaust, because the sci-fi mythologies are they live and grow in transmediality. Both the Visitors and Galactic are also a series of novels, and then other TV series. And for example, the most clear example of this is the X-Men saga. That comes from comic books. Then it's a film, and now they're about to create a TV series from one of the X-Men characters. So it's difficult to isolate a specific TV characteristics.
Okay. Emilio.
Not really, a couple of almost playful, kind of geeky comments. One is for Stéphanie. I don't know if he's still there. A few years ago, there was someone did exactly the same type of formatting for Lanzmann's Shoah, and I was wondering whether you looked at it, because it could be interesting to look at if the type of comments are the same. I also find it quite amusing that if Lanzmann never hears of it, his brain would explode. He wants people to watch Shoah in one sitting. Like the idea that people watching in kind of 10-minute extras would be probably too much for him. And the second one is for Kirstin. I didn't understand a word of your paper, but I have a question and the question is, I was struck by the fake commercial, and obviously I know nothing about the context, and I'm sorry if you might already mention what I'm about to say, or I don't know. But one thing that struck me is that is the ending is exactly the opposite of the ending of the film Come and See, the Klimov film, the Soviet film 1985 about the war in Belarusia, because there's the ending of the film. There's this very young partisan. He's a child, and he finds he's got a rifle, and he finds a portrait of Hitler, and he shoots at the portrait of Hitler for the first time in the old film, and then the film kind of goes back in time. So we see then images of Hitler taking over control of Germany, then going back in time, and he keeps on shooting at Hitler until he gets to the point where we see Hitler kind of as an infant in his mother's arms, and then he kind of refrains from shooting. So there's in that film and in this kind of clip too, there's a more or less conscious, I don't know how conscious, ethical stance. So, and I was wondering if it's just me, I'm imagining things that are not there, or if, I don't know who made it, if they were aware of it, if it's a conscious reference, or, I don't know.
I don't know too. I don't know if he knows, who is the film called?
Comenzi, it will be the English title.
Okay, I don't know if the producer of the clip knows this film and if it's an adaptation of this. So I'm sorry, but it's a good point.
No more questions? If there are no more questions, I just wait another second, then, okay, I would suggest we close the panel. Thank you very much. But it is also the time to close the whole conference. And you don't have to be afraid. I'm not going to summarize anything now, because I think it would be arrogant just to kind of tell you what you told us or whatever, and to summarize this. And also, I'm a little bit exhausted, and I have to think about the many things I learned here, and I have to summarize it for myself before I'm going public. Even then, I won't go public. We have a very professional, I think in the terminology of after TV, it's called blogger here. Adina Seger is surveying this conference, and at the end, in a couple of days or weeks, she will write a kind of a summarization of this conference, which will be published in German on the platform Hasotskult, you probably all familiar with. So this will be kind of an independent view on our conference. I'm very grateful that she does this work for us. Just one remark from my side. I don't know if you remember, when I opened the conference, I expressed my hope that we are going to get into more than only a historiographical approach. I was a little bit afraid, to be honest, that a bunch of historians come together and they're going to talk about a media which they're not familiar with, or are going to have a very historiographic approach, and that's the reason I stressed my hope that we will go beyond cinematic aspects and also will be able to work out kind of televisionary moments. And I'm honest, I think I'm positively surprised. I think, at least as far as I can see it, we succeeded in that, and I learned a lot from the lectures, but especially in the discussions, which were very vivid, surprisingly for me, very vivid and very, I learned that we have to have even more time for discussions, obviously, at our conferences. This is just a remark, and now comes the threat. The threat is that we intend to have a publication on this conference. You all got a style sheet in your folders in English and German. In a couple of weeks, you will get an email. This is the threat, telling you that we are waiting for your publication, but I think there will be enough time to work that out. We have to kind of work up other conferences, but we are getting more and more professional in that regard. So, and the time between the conference and the publication is getting shorter. So this is, again, the second threat. Finally, I want to thank you all for your contributions, for your lectures, for the discussions, for everything what you did here. Then I also want to thank my colleagues Eva Kovac and Siegfried Mattel, who with him together we worked out the kind of the conference design, the call for papers, everything, and it was a great input, I think, from all three sides. And finally, I want to thank also the Austrian Broadcasting Corporation for providing us with this venue, especially Gisela Fürthauer. I think she's not here. Möchte ich auch den Herren hinten danken für die Tonaufnahme, die wir dann bekommen, und vielen Dank für die Geduld auch mit uns, mit diesen Hin- und Herregeln und die Heizung und alles bedienen. Ich möchte mich auch bei den Herrschaften und Damenschaften bedanken, die das Mikrofon herumgetragen haben und uns damit sehr viel Arbeit erspart haben. I just thank the sound recorders, and this is also a warning. We intend to, or we always do it, we put it on YouTube, the lectures. I think there will be a little bit difficulties this time with the copyrights, but this is one of the reasons the sound has been recorded. If you have any, if you don't want to have that, please let us know so we don't put it on YouTube. And finally, I want to thank my team, the team of the VWI, here in especially Greta Anderl. She's in her well-deserved weekend already, but I think you all know her from the emails you exchange with her. And she's a person who organizes things which I don't even think about that they have to be organized. So I'm really grateful to her, and I want to express my gratitude to her. Thank you for being here. Enjoy the rest of your time in Vienna. It's a long weekend here in Austria. Monday is a holiday. I don't know if you stay here. Shops will be open. Okay, thank you very much.